As you probably know, Wargaming just introduced an article about introducing a new matchmaker, or rather a matchmaker test, where they try to enhance the current system. That is great. Obviously, the problem is a little bit self-made, and I believe they already planned to introduce matchmaking changes, but the current situation, which we have at tier 10 at least right now, really turbocharged these efforts. Because let's be honest, introducing a fairly good sniper TD with 800 alpha, which is paper thin, didn't really help the whole passiveness and snowballiness meta of the game right now. It also didn't help that this thing is very weakly armored, meaning a lot of people were like, oh, let's try and grieve people with a other high alpha, aka even one-shotting machine like the FV Stage 2. And it definitely didn't help that Wargaming also introduced the 183, nope, that's the Forge 155, 183 into the Bonds shop. Yeah, Wargaming really kind of by accident shot themselves into their own leg right there. But at least Wargaming also acted insanely quickly now to tell us, ladies and gents, we are trying to work on a solution. And that is what I want to talk about today. And I know the others already talked about this, I'm a little bit late, reasons are life. But as we say in German, I would like to give you my mustard to it. Yes, that is a literal translation of a German saying. This is a little bit blah blah, which nobody cares about. Let's talk about the key performance matchmaking improvements. The first thing is that Wargaming wants to change what tanks are being matched against each other. How they're going to achieve this, we don't really know yet, but let's be honest, they technically already have a certain idea of that, and that is called field mods, you know, the subclass of a tank. But maybe they are going to try and use this because, yes, currently chances are, or it can happen that one team has a Mouse and even 100 while the other has only a 50B and a T57 heavy tank. However, I do believe that this doesn't really happen that often. What I've more often saw is that the matchmaker tried to give both teams an autoloader, which then resulted that, for example, one team having a T57 heavy tank, while the other team had a T54 E1. And already this is a massive difference in power level. The T57 heavy is miles stronger than a T54 E1. Even armor-wise, but most notably, obviously, DPM and burst damage, you know? But it also led to the changes that sometimes the other team was then lucky and gets an insanely strong heavy tank, you know? An additional heavy tank, while the other team gets just a tier 9 heavy tank, a normal heavy tank, you know? Like maybe an IS-4 then versus an M103, for example. So let's see, this is a big change and I hope that this will help the game to be more unique, but it could also be more boring because everything will feel the same. Yeah, I don't know. On paper, good change. The next one are basically class limits, and that is very, very needed. As I've already said in the introduction to this video, we have the issue of this tank destroyer problem, you know? So they are introducing a hard limit of just 5 tank destroyers and giving a hard limit of 3 light tanks per team. That is great when RT changes, you know, like when only 2 RTs maximum. I know this will not happen, but because of queue times, but I will talk about this in just a minute, but you know, it's a good step into the first direction. I know I said that wrong, but why exactly though? Why do we need a hard limit on TDs? I have one hypothesis, and the fact is right now that because of the DBV, the 183 and more DBVs, just have too many TDs in 10 games, and it makes them incredibly boring and frustrating. What I've heard from other people. I personally didn't have time to play it, so I'm paraphrasing. My hypothesis is also a little bit because of the changes to how artillery worked back in the days where they introduced stun changes. You know? A lot of artillery players then were like, well, I don't do damage anymore. Screw this, I'm going to go to tank destroyers, the next best class, which in most situations And I said as myself as a TD main, by the way, in most situations it doesn't really need a lot of skill to just stand in a bush and look down one corridor and do massive amounts of damage. That's a hypothesis. And that's why we have an influx in TDs. The fact is, again, the DBV introduction and the hypothesis being that a lot of artillery mains back in the days migrated to being. That's the hypothesis. Anyway, this one is, in my opinion, very, very much needed, especially for tier 6 and tier 7. These ranks are so frustrating to play when you get up tiered. What is a tier 6 tank supposed to do against a tier 8 tank like an XM75, XM57 and a BZ176? Nothing. I know Wargaming will tell you, oh, just avoid them. You have other tier 6s to fight against. But Mr. Wargaming, what are you going to do if they are right in front of you? Because the tank maps are very corridor-like. Ah, now we see where the problem stands, innit? Yeah. So, being able to include a bias towards more +-1 games, or even same tier games in lower tier spreads, be fantastic. It's sad that it took so long, but hey, they're saying they're going to change it. Lastly, or next up, we have the smart vehicle distribution, where they talk about that they want to introduce hard limits to, well, not hard limits, but limits to how many identical tanks are per team, which I think is also fixed for lower tiers, where sometimes one team had, it is an Italian tier 3 medium tank. I will quickly check it because I didn't know it anymore. This one, the Sahariano. There we go. Where one team had only this tank while the others didn't have anyone. Obviously, this will kind of destroy the funny memes where QB was playing talk only, you know, with basically the whole lobby, or currently the FCM2C problem, but whatever. I guess this is a pretty good thing, and we will see how this will work out, especially also in higher tiers where a lot of teams always have Barasks or even 90s, etc. Because that is actually a big problem. When I was grinding to check light tank line, you are being boned when you basically played the Blesk and the enemy had an even 90. You know? You were boned. Because what are you supposed to do? I think this only happens in rare cases because of how the matchmaker starts to lower his rules. On that in just a second. But, you know, not fun. Speaking about the rules. Now, apparently there will be a smart and faster dynamic queue management. You have to know, the matchmaking wall of tanks works in a very specific way. Apparently, if I'm not mistaken, there is even a patent on it. But the main thing is that it has a set number of rules, which it cannot break under any circumstances, like maximum 3 artilleries. But there are also some soft rules. These rules start to be broken the longer a player or players are in the queue to try and get a quick game out. I can assume that these changes now are trying to be about these rules. Which ones are going to be heavier, which ones are going to be less prominent, etc. But still, the problem is, you know, everything above was very concrete information what they want to do. This one right here is very vague. You know, it doesn't mean a lot if you actually read into it. It just needs, oh yeah, we are changing the rules a little bit. You don't know what they are. So, have fun, I guess. The thing is, and this is my personal opinion, so I will gladly listen to yours in the comment section below as well. This is also a War Thunder problem. For some reason, World of Tanks and War Thunder love to harp about their quick queue times. We need to have quick queue times. It's so important. We don't want the players to wait for 1 minute or even 30 seconds. We want them to have them and they're in the game. But I have to say, why? If your target is 15-second queues, make it 20 seconds. Nobody's going to bat an eye about 5 seconds. You know? Nobody is. You can literally even think about maybe reducing the 30-second interval at the beginning. Because as far as I know, this was introduced for slower PCs to also log into the game. I'm not sure, again, that is now a hypothesis. I'm not sure if this is still a problem. Because let's be honest, it's now 2025 and a lot of older systems are done. Finito. They're gone. So the new systems might be a little bit faster. The main point is though, like, wargaming and War Thunder as well. I don't care if I have to wait for 5 more seconds in a queue when a game is taking 3 minutes longer because it was more fun and more balanced. Genuinely. War Thunder has the exact same problem, but generally they're a matchmaking system. I can make a video about it and showcase how atrociously stupid and bad it is, even though they have a tier system there. Blah, it's bad. But in World of Tanks, it's a little bit the same issue. Like, I much rather would wait 5 or even 10 more seconds in my tier 6 or 7 tank to actually play against maximum tier 7 or tier 8 vehicles. Or just play against my same tier. That would be so much more fun and more relaxing. And I'll always be like, oh great, the enemy has a +2 tank in the enemy team. Oh great, he is on my flank. Oh great, I will now get something which I cannot say on YouTube without getting demonetized and probably even banned. But yeah, I don't know. Both games really need to rethink their approach on how queue times are. Lastly, there's one more point. And I think it's a little bit of a taboo, which Wargaming finally broke, and that is actually testing this on the live server. That is fantastic. I literally talked about the changes to the maps like Airfield and Ensk and Airfield to do them on live server, because yes, super testers can check for quality assurance problems, but they are only a tiny fraction of the player base, and they're on the tiny fraction on the upper side of the player base, because usually super testers tend to be above average, usually. Test server is not a real environment. People there just play stupidly differently than they play on live servers. So making this matchmaking test on the live server is, in my opinion, probably the best announcement they could have done, because it shows committed to them and it shows that they are willing to test something on the live system. Like, wargaming used to have and still has a very high quality assurance standard in many situations. Yes, recently it is a little bit of lacking. There are some rumors out there. I'm not going to delve into them right now. But the point is, they really are trying to make everything they release on the live servers to be as good as possible. Again, quality assurance kind of lost a little bit. The point is, the fact that they're now saying, you know what, screw it, we are doing this live is great. And I don't have much more else to say, and that is why I'm going to leave it here. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section below what you think, and please, please, please make these tests or try this game out on EU1 server when those changes are being introduced finally. And let me know as well what you think about it. I also have a Discord. I'm not that active there. It's a little bit of a... Sometimes it's active, sometimes it isn't. But hey, I might be more yapping there than somewhere else. Life is hard. Cheers, and I'll see you around.